Hello and welcome to Stephen University. This week's lecture is on the subject of Beach Party, an episode about, a big pufferfish monster, if nothing else. The Gems are fighting that right up front, and during that battle, Garnet is blown into one of the strangest establishments in Beach City, Fish Stew Pizza. A pizza place. I'm going to just assume it's a pizza place because the idea of a fish stew pizza sounds disgusting.
Awful.
Due to the local property damage, the family that run that, who we've met in bits before, we've met Kiki before, for example. She was one of the cool kids in Lars and the Cool Kids, and we've seen the vehicle. That the car they drove around in that was the pizza mobile, if you remember rightly, from the fish stew pizza shop. Basically, it turns out that the Gems really don't have much interest in keeping the people of Beach City happy. So Stephen, trying to sort of mend that relationship after they've destroyed their establishment, organises a beach party. And at first they're not getting on, and then they are, and then they aren't, and it's a bit back and forth, mostly played for comedy. And then at the end, the pufferfish monstery thing returns, and everyone has to work together to beat it. Quite simple, very very kids show, more so than this show usually is. But in my opinion, thoroughly, enjoyable. Like, not one of the best, but certainly a nice way to spend 10-15 minutes of your time. As always, though, straight away, let's find out. Chris, is this going to be another episode that should not be named, or is this going to be another one you're very fond of?
You didn't name it this week, unlike last week.
Well.
Jesus. Stop bringing it up. I think it's fish stew and pizza, so they serve all three.
Yeah, I'm hoping
I know
so.
they've not got
because it's called
comments,
fish stew pizza, so I just feel concerned that that's a thing that people are eating.
I view that as like chicken kebabs burger, you know?
Gotcha. Yeah.
Do you remember that place in Bournemouth that was like ribs and chicken, and it just blew my mind that somewhere would be dedicated to selling ribs, and they never really had many ribs, and I never really purchased the ribs.
No, because you go to a place like that, you want chicken.
Yeah, all about that chicken. I loved it. I think it was great. I thought it was more than just a nice way to spend 15 minutes. I thought that you had an interesting, fun monster that made you think, well, how are they going to solve this? I thought the balance between monster and doing stuff about the families and the relationships with the people in the town and sort of the interrelationships between all of them. The volleyball scene was fantastic visually and fun because you got to see the powers used in a creative way, which was both fun from a character point of view and a visual point of view. You got to see the teams of people getting on, so like the family and the Gems, like whoever they were teamed up, like one Gem, one family member, and they within themselves got on. I thought there were so many different sort of pockets of relationships explored. I thought it was real fun, and then you could see where it was going. You knew that the monster was going to come back, and they were going to defeat it as one big team. But that didn't mean it wasn't entertaining. And at no point did I feel I was waiting for the monster to come back. I was thoroughly enjoying the what is that?
That was the Steven Universe wiki deciding to play an advert.
Yeah, okay.
Sorry.
I thought it was a perfect balance, and I thought it had a nice amount of heart. Because I know last week I was like, the balanced episodes aren't necessarily my favourites, but I don't mean it was a balance of everything, but I thought it was a nice balance of heart and action, and explored some really cool things. I thought it was weird that Pearl's relaxed outfit was more formal than her actual outfit.
I know. I love that. I kind of love that about Pearl.
Yeah.
It's very, very Pearl. It's so appropriate. I will say one thing I thought you might like about this week's episode was it sort of validated a point I'd made in an earlier episode, that Amethyst is really the only member of the team that leans on shape-shifting as a crux. She's obviously very good at it. It's 90% of the time it's how she likes to solve problems. Like right at the beginning, she turned into a bat and knocked the monster away.
Mm.
And then at the end, obviously, she turns into the beach ball, and then she turns into stuff in the middle as well. So I assume you're starting to notice the pattern now that very rarely do Garnet and Pearl shapeshift. They physically can,
Yeah.
but it is something that they are not as masterful at as Amethyst, therefore don't do as often.
Pearl did that thing where she produced like other versions of herself in it, and Garnet's just a bit of a boss. She's just tough. She's tough as fuck.
Yeah.
Excuse the language. Yeah, I really, really thoroughly enjoyed it. Like you say, it wasn't. I was never like, that's hilarious. Apart from maybe the Gran, they got some good comedy from her.
Yeah, she's brilliant. She's one of Nadia's favourite characters as well.
She was really funny, and there were moments where she was like, "Oh, you young people," and they were just like, "I'm older than you."
Like, yeah, Garnet literally goes, "I'm much older than you." It's brilliant.
It's a really.
I also really enjoyed the idea
from them just not getting it.
I enjoyed the idea as well that like when they came round, they were like, "I've never been to this side of the beach before." Like, no one goes near where the gems live because they're all sensible and they know that you just don't go there.
But like, know enough about the gems to not be shocked or confused when they transform into different things, which I find interesting. Like, what I hope we explore and get a few more answers on the history of the gems in the town.
Well, yeah, the gems have had an interesting history because they've been that temple existed long before the town sprung up. So when the town sprung up, it created this. It created like almost a problem because like you had all these people that were just sort of like noticing, interfering, observing what was going on, and that's been happening for a little while. And that's but the funny thing is the gems have a real indifference to other people. They don't really care what the town think of them. Which is interesting, because they're obviously just to protect it for whatever reason. Which again, that's explored in depth later on. So yeah, there's some good stuff there. I really like as well that that they were like, you live in this tiny shack, and they're like, no, we live in the sanctums within.
Yeah, it's the whole thing.
Yeah,
it's the whole mounting that we have.
Yeah, basically. So it's almost like Doctor Who TARDIS effect, isn't it? With that place, because obviously they go in, it's like a little shack, and then there's like a door, and they sort of press their gem up against it, and the door to their home, their particular room opens. It's a pretty neat idea. In terms of,
I thought it was a nice contrast as well, and it I suppose it helps to notice this thing that and shouldn't really make this observation because it's an observation that comes from watching the two episodes very close together. But it was a nice contrast, knowing this was the second episode of a double bill. A nice contrast that last week's was Lion, and it only really, not even particularly dealt with the gems. They weren't in it at all, so it was really just about Connie and Stephen and Lion. So for this week to have an episode that opened it up and really explored and showed off both the gems and other characters from the town, I thought was a cool juxtaposition as well.
Yeah, I think I that's what I love about the show as well. They're not afraid to just push a character to the side for a week if they don't feel like they're not going to force them in just because they need to be there because they're there all the time. Like the show is utterly comfortable just pushing any character out for a week and saying, no, this is the focus. This is where we want to tell a story, and this is who we want to tell a story about. And anything else is if it's not essential to that story, it isn't in the episode. So the show is comfortable enough to drop any element that you associate with it week to week. Do you know what I mean? Like, there'll be episodes where there might not be any gem stuff at all. There might just be Stephen and the people of the town, or it might just focus on, like the actual gems and their mission, or might just focus on the mythology, or might just focus on Stephen's relationship with Connie, or so it's the show is comfortable to just to find a story that it likes and is confident in, and then tell it really well. And I think that's one of the reasons that the show, is so entertaining and doesn't get sort of tiring. You could, had this show been made by less intelligent people, or made, years ago when kids TV was a little bit less sort of interesting, they were like, they're dumb kids. We don't need to actually worry about making this any good. In the era of like Power Rangers, where every episode was pretty much exactly the same as the last.
Well, careful, let's not Let's not shit on Power Rangers, Dan.
Well, no, I'm not shitting on Power Rangers. It just came from a different time where that was acceptable. You know, a lesser show.
They did do the Green with Evil saga, which was a 5-episode roller coaster of emotions. So
I mean, sure. Anyway,
Missing Green as well dealt with Jason's guilt over Tommy's defeat and the green candle burning down. So I think it's deeper than you remember, Dan.
I shouldn't have mentioned Power Rangers. I think
because your tiny child mind at the time didn't pick up on its nuances doesn't mean you can shit on it now.
Coming next week, you know, fucking Power Rangers Observers or Power Rangers University or whatever the fuck we call it.
No, that'd be fucking tedious. Every episode's the same. But like
So I think what's good about this show is we're in an era now where it's like these TV shows for kids, that they're a bit more challenging, they're a bit more willing to step out of that. But you could easily imagine this show falling into a pattern in a different era, you know, where it's like Stephen feels inept, introduce the monster, they defeat the monster thanks to Stephen's, you know, naivety or whatever, his excitement, his desire to be better. End of episode. Do you know what I mean? Like, you could do that every week.
Yeah,
and it would be.
I'm glad they don't do a lot of that. Like, when this show started, I expected a lot of Stephen accidentally saves the day, and they've not really done that, and that's pretty cool. I think, like you say, that shows a more advanced storytelling that perhaps animated shows and kids animated shows haven't explored before.
Yeah, I think so, and I think as well that like there's an obvious maturing to Stephen as we're going on. I mean, you may have noticed it now. I mean, we're now 20 episodes in, and there's been a fair shift in his approach and his personality. Not so drastic that it like feels like a different person. It feels very natural, but he's becoming a lot more self-confident. He's becoming a lot more confident in what it is he wants. So, like, I think in the earlier episodes, he might have just complained about the fact that the Gems didn't care about the fact they were banned from fish stew pizza, but he took action. He went, no, that's not good enough. I want everyone to get on. I don't like the idea of you guys being banned from there, despite the fact you literally don't need to eat, which was finally revealed this episode. I mentioned that to you in an earlier episode, but yeah, that's very funny. So you know, I think it's this is another example of Stephen's growth. I think. He's becoming a lot more self-sufficient, and that's again very complex storytelling.
Yeah, because they could have easily banned Stephen as well, and you could have easily done exactly the same episode, but had Stephen be banned, and his desire to make amends is so that he's not banned and he can eat his pizza. But actually, like you say, they went down a route of he doesn't want them to be outlawed, and even though they don't care, he cares because he just doesn't like tension and stuff like that. So yeah, there's literally a version of this plot where you could do everything the same without that element of character growth.
But he has more selfish of a desire or more selfish of a reason to do it in the first place. Yeah, no, I totally agree. I think they did a cracking job. So I really like this one. Something I forgot to mention, a little reference in an earlier episode that I forgot to mention on last week's one, Chris. Last week's episode was not the introduction of Dogcopter.
Oh, okay.
Just wanted to point out that in the episode where they, Lars and the Cool Kids, where they go to the Moss and all that stuff, when they first get in the car with the Cool Kids, the pizza delivery car, which does sort of tie to this week's episode, there's a Dogcopter billboard in the background.
Yeah, cool.
I thought you'd appreciate that.
Just one other quick thing, just before we wrap up, because you're right, that is the conclusion. Wonderful episode. Did a lot and shows real character growth and just a lot of variety. Really, I really enjoyed it. We're now at a point recording these where they've started to air. So thank you to everyone who's downloaded, who's commented, who's left nice feedback and stuff. Really appreciated. I think we may have done that a few weeks ago, but we're a couple of episodes in now, and it's been really positive. So thank you to everyone.
From the point of us recording this, the Frybo episode just went up. And yeah, we're deeply thankful for anyone who has shared it, who has commented on it, who has liked it, who has anything like that. So I mean, the first episode has a pretty decent sort of like I think 700 views or something like that at this stage. And that's pretty good. That's exciting, and the feedback has been really positive. So I'm pretty excited. I mean, if you're into the show, or if you want to help spread the word, we would appreciate that. So reviewing us on iTunes, commenting and liking on YouTube, subscribing, these things help. Maybe sharing on Discord
definitely.
or Reddit or places like that also go a long way to helping us.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
My only fear is that people will enjoy it less as I enjoy the show more.
Yeah, I mean, I must admit that it seems to be the thing people are responding to most is when you hate it, and that's starting to go away because you're. That's a good question. Actually, very quick before we wrap up, like where do you feel like you're at with the show now? Do you reckon are you a fan now? Are you in? Are you still not looking forward to each episode?
No, I look forward to each episode, and I look forward to do it. And when you're like, because like when we do schedules and stuff, Dan's like a hungry dog. He's like, let's do SU. I'm excited to do SU. Like, and like he's like the other day he was like, I don't want to drop it so often and get too competent about the fact that we're ahead. And to clarify, we're like double figures ahead, but he's very excited. And I always look at that and I'm like, oh yeah, I suppose I'm quite looking forward to an episode. I don't see it as a chore watching them. If we stop doing this tomorrow, if we stop doing this tomorrow, I probably would keep watching it because like it's only 10 minutes long and I've got the episodes. Do you know what I mean? So it'd be quite good. Think if we stop watching it tomorrow and I didn't have to watch it around when we were recording it, I truthfully would probably watch it in bed instead of random Stephen Colbert monologues. Do you see what I mean? Like it's so easy to slot in that I would probably watch it that way. You'd probably end up watching a couple a week for a few weeks, and you'd probably have blasted through it. Yeah, but that's partly because of its length, its convenience. Do you know what I mean? If it was half an hour long, I'm not sure, but yeah, I'd probably keep watching for the sake of keep watching.
Well, I mean, can we call that progress? Yeah, why not?
It's progress.
Yeah. I felt very. I had a bit of a Steven Universe day really because last night they dropped the from my perspective because we're recording this around the sort of around early May, 6th, 7th, sort of 5th, 6th of May.
6th of May, I believe.
It is. Yeah, I think it's the 6th for us. Last night, Friday the 5th, I was able to watch the most recent Steven Bomb, which consisted, for those of you listening who'd want to place this, from Lion 4 alternative ending right through to, an episode which title I literally won't say out loud because it's... Actually, no, it's not really a spoiler, you know that. The episode's title was I Am My Mum. And,
Ooh.
I mean, dear Lord, what a brilliant 5-episode run. Just so clever. Like, the way those 5 episodes worked, and the way they worked together as well, really... complex and very clever storytelling. I'm very excited. The part of my eagerness to do this show is I just want you to see more of it. I'm desperate to get to some of these key episodes and desperate for you to see some of these key moments that are coming up. I mean, we've not really even hit the big stuff yet. There's still episodes.
Didn't we work out that we would be unlikely to ever catch up because it's like so many episodes ahead?
I think we currently have enough episodes to take us up to September 2019.
Yeah.
September 2019.
That's crazy.
Yeah. So, that's fine. We'll keep going.
Oh. Yeah.
But the thing is, even though we won't necessarily catch up, we will ultimately, over time, get to some of these key moments. And I guess the show will come to an end at some point too, which means that there'll be a point in which
it's at this point, like we're in. I think the bigger it's more on the politicians not destroying the world than it is on us.
Yeah, it would basically take Trump actually getting us into a nuclear holocaust. That would be pretty much the only thing that would probably stop this at this point, I think.
So yeah.
So there you go. So short of a nuclear holocaust, we'll see you next week. Now that is an awkward ending for an episode titled Rose's Room.
There you go.
Wow.
We've gone over again, Dan.
We have.
Just chatting about nuclear war.
Which
Shouldn't have done it.
should have done it.
You know what's bad? We're filming this in advance. What if when this goes out, like, some shit is really, like... What if it's proper stepped up and that's really ill-conceived, that
Well,
conversation?
if that's the case, Chris, we'll just leave this bit in.
And that'll be the awkward bit.
The awkwardness will be that we got it so wrong.
Shit.
Because in an earlier episode that's yet to be broadcast, I said, how was Trump's impeachment? And I'm really hoping he does get impeached before that episode goes out, so I'll feel like an absolute genius.
Awkward.